Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Background Information. Today we're doing another creature profile, and it's another aspect of the night predators known as the owls. So we're going to talk about the Harpy and the Siren in the Beyond the Veil mythology. And as usual, I'll give you a quote from one of the stories that there's a mention in, and then I'll give you the information that I have about these beings that I've incorporated into my own work, and then I'll actually give you a species profile. Because we've got two here, I've split it into two, sort of, but all in the same file. Anyway, let's get into it. Oh, and apologies, I have got a cold while I'm doing this one. Well, the first mission I had was dealing with a siren that was kidnapping underage victims and devouring them. It was my first time flying over the scene with both me and Grimbold wearing earplugs. I had a terrible time dealing with that song. It's like a memory of safety and happiness, which is what makes the siren so dangerous. It's by John Pierre from Memphis Bainer. Continuing with our night predators in the owl category, this month we'll discuss the Harpy and the Siren, both very unique beings in the Veil, and complete opposites in many ways, and yet linked together. These beings all stem from Greek mythology, but have been used in varied media and become universal imagery of bird women with malevolent intentions. Though both are always seen as female, in the Veil the Siren also includes male members, and we'll discuss their profiles separately, but in the Veil their intentions to attack humans is clear. So firstly, let's talk about the Harpy, as this one is the easiest. Described as a half-bird, half-human entity that personified the storm wind. They appear mostly in the Homeric poetry, but they have appearances in other works too, including Hesiod, Virgil, Hyginus, and Aeschylus, the latter of which has this to say about the species. Before this man, an extraordinary band of women slept, seated on thrones, not women, but rather Gorgons, I call them, and yet I cannot compare them to the form of Gorgons either. Once before I saw some creatures in a painting carrying off the feast of Phineus, but these are wingless in appearance, black, altogether disgusting. They snore with repulsive breaths, they drip from their eyes hateful drops. Their attire is not fit to bring either before the statues of the gods or into the homes of men. I have never seen the tribe that produced this company, nor the land that boasts of rearing this brood of impunity, and does not grieve for its labour afterwards. Here we have mention of the story of Phineus, which is where most people attribute Harpies to, as this takes part within the story of Jason and the Argonauts. Phineus was a king of Thrace who was gifted with foresight and yet used it to spoil one of Zeus's plans. Zeus, being a rational god, blinded Phineus and exiled him to an island where every day a great feast was laid for him, but he had only minutes to eat before the Harpies would come down and devour or spoil the food, so Phineus only ever got enough to survive. This was stopped, however, when Jason and his Argonauts arrived, only to be told Phineus would only help them if they helped him. So they captured the Harpies in nets, and only at the behest of the goddess Iris, who swore that the dogs of Zeus would leave Phineus alone, would they release them. Descriptions of Harpies change too over time, with some referring to them as beautiful bird women, but most, particularly in Roman and Byzantine depictions, have them as much more ugly and aggressive. In fact, the most obvious reason may be not only for the above story, in which these creatures also defecate on the food, but because Ovid describes them as human vultures, and of course vultures are a species often depicted as unclean due to eating carcasses. The addition of removal of the breast element alters through the ages, and curiously, in heraldry, there's a popular charge which is a harpy or maiden eagle that tends to be linked mostly to German heraldry such as Nuremberg's greater coat of arms, but it does exist in some other heraldry, although its meaning is not always clear. If calling this a harpy has any link to the mythical Greek being at all. But the role of the harpy, indeed its function, is deemed to be initially of wind spirits, with their name meaning snatchers or swift robbers, and being referred to as the Hounds of Zeus or the ministers of the Thunderer. This makes some kind of sense, as it is Zeus who sends them to torment Phineus, and they are described in more recent discussions as guardians of the Underworld, vicious, cruel, and violent, who would snatch people away. In fact, they're said to have kidnapped the daughters of King Pandarius to become servants of the Erinyes, with whom they are very akin to and even I link them to. The Harpies, though, are generally thought to snatch food from, devour, and generally just torture evildoers, and carrying through those who killed their families to the Erinyes for punishment. It's a curious familiarity, but interesting. In mythology, their source and dwelling varies, though some clearly point them out as living on the island of Strophanes. Others have them as denizens of Tartarus due to their roles. But as to whom they were spawned from, they're servants to Zeus and the gods, and according to some sources are the children of Talmas and Electra, the Oceanid, therefore the sisters of Iris, so why she might have helped them out. That's according to Hesiod. Hyginus, though, says they're daughters of Osmene, but also say Electra, though various other sources say they could be the children of others, with one even claiming that they might be the daughters of Typhon, and some even claiming Poseidon. It's a confusing situation, as confusing as what their names are, as unlike the Erinyes that are named quite clearly, these beings are mainly known by two individuals, Aelio and Ocypet. Virgil adds a third in Salado. Homer names a Harpy Podarge, and sometimes Aelio is called Aeliopus or Nicophoe. Ocypet called Ocypode and Ocypho. Homer even suggests that Podarge birthed Achilles' horses by the west wind Zephyrus. In fact, Aelio is also said to have produced horses too. Indeed, other children stated to belong to Podarge are horses, and Arion the swift horse is said to have been born to a Harpy by Zephyrus. It's a very curious kind of situation that the famous horses of Greek mythology are born to monsters, e.g. Pegasus. My own understanding of Harpy is a creature with a woman's face and breasts upon a bird that would attack lions and aid in punishment, something that was probably developed not only by their appearance in Dante's Inferno, but by the character No Name in Philip Pullman's Dark Materials. I'm also very fond of the depiction of Salado the Harpy in The Last Unicorn. I enjoy the fact that it was named for one of the Harpies in Aeneas, but also that it gets revenge for being confined by Mummy Fortuna, as they certainly seem to be linked to punishment. But now let's talk about its profile as a species in the Veil. Side, neutral, dark. Created by Nemesis and Lucifer. Created for to torment souls of the damned in purgatory and in the Veil. Created when Nemesis was the strange half-demon daughter of Asmodeus, who, with their angelic and demonic qualities, might be called Misdema, but she chose to remain as a judge for the souls wandering purgatory that would later return to the cycle and not be condemned to hell forever. But when she found that some of these repentant souls were murderers and liars, or the worst kind, who had yet to truly understand their behaviour, she grew angry and requested a servant to aid her. Lucifer had already made her the Erinyes, but decided to give her a hand in finding a suitable creature that could torment the souls. So he sent the Erinyes out to pair with the Strix, and their swarm with the Harpy, under Nemesis' control, denizens of hell and the Veil, and one of only a few species able to move in and out, though they are not demonic or spiritual beings, save the earliest. Physical description. They can have human appearances, often exceptionally beautiful women who have a way of pointing out the jealous and liars amongst social groups, but their usual form is rather more nasty, in how they take on the shape of a great bird of prey with great talons, but they have the face of a beautiful woman and a slightly human chest, though coated in feathers. They have eyes that, when looked into, can show only storms, as they drink in the rage and fury of a being, making them appear more demonic. They also have a long human neck that sometimes makes them look vulture-like. Abilities. During storms they are at their most active, using the wild winds to scatter people they kidnap, who need to see the error of their ways, or perch them in their houses and give them nightmares. They can see all the wrong of a person and can cast a spell so that each time a being lies, they hear the Harpy calling them a liar. They can fly and enter earth, the veil, and hell without restraint. They can carry a human off in their talons, or steer the wind to help them. They are drawn to tormenting and harassing betrayers the most, and also guard the passages of purgatory, so all repentant souls that will be given leniency to return to the soul cycle don't forget their wrongdoing. They also have a strange sort of ability in that when they breed, they produce daughters which are siren and dark, but sons that are all the swiftest horses imaginable, and generally light in nature. Most known for tormenting traitors. Weaknesses. They cannot hurt someone who admits their wrongdoing that is alive, but if that person then commits another bad act, the Harpies will kill them and eat their flesh. They are weak to demons and angels in the Erinyes, but also somehow nihilistic beings tend to throw them. Number. About 1,000 individuals within hell, and about 10 known living in the Veil. Well-known beings. Aelio. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. It's spelled Aello. Characters and stories. Aelio appears in a few stories in the background mostly. She also has an appearance as a lover of Talisman Vilmore II somehow. So that's Harpies, and from hearing that you probably guessed why I put Harpies and Sirens together in Veil. So let's talk about Sirens. Now, modern interpretation has the siren as appearing as akin to mermaids and water spirits, like the Rusalka, but initial depictions and descriptions have them as bird-headed women that played lyres and harps as they sang. They lived on one particular area in Greek mythology known to be perilous and feature in the stories of Odysseus, or the stories of Ulysses if you're Roman. Here they sing a song that lures sailors off their ships and to an island where they expect carnal pleasure only to be devoured by the hideous birds. The name is said to mean entangler or binder. In the story of Odysseus, he dared to strap himself to the mast to listen to the song. A song that is said to be described by Walter Copeland Perry as their song, though irresistibly sweet, was no less sad than sweet, and that both body and soul in a fatal lethargy, the forerunner of death and corruption. Some pieces state the song is only heard at midday when the sea grows calm and almost motionless, and it calls upon Persephone, goddess of the underworld. It is something that has also been suggested by some modern scholars to actually be the call of seals echoing about. When you think the targets are sex-starved sailors who are always at risk of things like dehydration, scurvy and cabin fever, they can easily be auditory hallucinations that make sailors go stir-crazy. The sirens have links to death that not only match their devouring flesh, nor their songs hearkening to Persephone, but some legends state that they are servants and companions of Persephone herself, and so have links to the underworld just like the Harpies. Their beautiful singing was also said to be drowned out by the beautiful music of Orpheus upon the lyre. The songs Orpheus played were of his loss of Eurydice to the underworld, and enough to make Persephone beg Hades to let the soul have a chance to return with Orpheus, until he turned back and saw her and lost his chance. If the song were about this subject they sang of, then it would make sense they would be defeated by a song praising their mistress's kindness. There are some myths that say they were in competition with the Muses. They were referred to as the Muses of the Underworld, and if in this competition against the Muses, they lost and were plucked forth. In fact, sirens have a huge attachment to death, with statues of them even being present in funerary rites, and are thought to lead souls through to the afterlife in safety. It shows their similarities to the Harpies once again, and just like them, the mention of sirens comes with a connotation of dark things if you look into it. In mythology too, the heritage is as random as the Harpies, with Phorcys, the primordial sea god, being claimed their father, but their mothers ranging from the Muses to the daughter of a king. The number 2 varies, often between 2 and 8, with various names listed including Hesino, Aglaope, Thelsiopeia, Partheno, Ligia, and Leucosia. Just to name a tiny number, considering each writer gives different names, different name variations, and different spellings. However, the sirens have an odd role in Christianity too, with belief in them being discouraged. But St. Jerome's translations use sirens to be jackals in Isaiah and owls in Jeremiah, which can show you my link to them being included amongst the owl category of the night predators. But even in Christianity, the name stuck around along with mythology, when it became a popular theme in art, as well as a symbol of temptation and slang for dangerous women, especially around courtesans who had entertained at the same time as being an unmarried female companion. Indeed, courtesans performed a similar role in enticing and enchanting through the music they played, and because they were unmarried, it was immoral and even more reason to link them to creatures with cannibalistic tendencies. This cemented the idea of a siren used in our own modern language around women, or something alluring that leads to danger, and must therefore never be followed. Quite apt from something linked to the underworld and something for me to link to hell. So here's my profile of the siren species in hell. Side dark, created by children of the Harpies and demons. Created for nothing in particular. Created when Harpies living in hell, occasionally paired with demons of the wind, water, or lust, and the daughters born from it were sirens. Sirens then mate with humans and devour them to produce baby sirens, including male sirens. Physical description. They take the guise of beautiful people, their faces radiant and alluring as their human form, and their voices the most beautiful ever. But when approached, the illusion falls, and the beautiful head is seen perching atop a vicious bird's body with great and horrible talons that will grab a being and rip them apart. Abilities. They can fly, sing to their own prey, and control prey, have immense strength to hold on to a victim and rip them apart, and hold a hypnotic gaze. They can also play harps and lyres, even in their bird forms, which takes a considerable amount of skill. Most known for luring sex-starved people to their deaths, whether at sea or anywhere in isolation. Weaknesses. They cannot compete against music that is sung from the heart. If a musician falls amongst them, then as long as they play their song to the end and the sirens like it, they will become faithful servants and aid the musician through the rest of their life. Number. There are a few small collections about Veil harbours and ports with a huge proportion running their own siren ripple label in the Veil. But there is known to be around 50 or so confirmed nests of sirens, and no one is quite sure how many exist in hell to torment the souls that think they can escape hell into purgatory along the river of death. By no means, Ligeia not only one of the first sirens, but she later moved into the Veil and changed from being a lure to actively going to courts of the vampires to seek for them, gaining victims this way in thanks for their entertainment before she later decided to move with modern times, and with her sons and daughters developed Siren Records, which is the biggest music company in the Veil. Characters and stories, Ligeia and her children pop up in a few stories, and I'm planning to work on one about them potentially in the future. Final comments. I hope you found that interesting and can see the links of the man-eating bird women to the Strix, and why they are all listed under the title Owl amongst the night predators. They're all very interesting, and I always loved the idea of a vampire having a court that included a gilded cage where free sirens with singing entertainment still snap out a guest like kept lions. Next month we'll talk about the other birds that are included in the owl category, but are generally falcon or eagle-headed, such as Aethon, Horus types, and a few others. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.